Hi there, and welcome to the Surviving and Thriving in Residency podcast. I'm Charley Lowry, your host and director of GME Relations at PracticeLink. This show is all about exploring the world of graduate and undergraduate medical education. We'll dive into the real-life experiences, successes, and challenges faced by medical students, residents, and fellows, while also highlighting valuable tools to support you, whether that's financial planning, student aid, or the many free resources provided by PracticeLink. If you're thinking about med school, currently studying, or deep into residency or fellowship, this podcast is here to offer insights and support to make your journey a bit easier than those before you. Today on Surviving and Thriving in Residency, I'm thrilled to welcome Dr. David Park, DO. Dr. Park is a nationally respected physician leader in osteopathic medical education with a career that spans clinical care, academic direction, and resident development. He has held major leadership roles with the American College of Osteopathic Family Physicians, contributing to national conversations around training standards, policy, and the future of family medicine. Dr. Park also played a central role at Rocky Vista University, including serving as the founding dean of the Montana campus, where he helped build and strengthen osteopathic medical education programs and supported the growth of countless future physicians. And in Las Vegas, he served at Valley Hospital, where he was instrumental in shaping graduate medical education and supporting both residents and clinical teams. Today, Dr. Park serves as the Associate Dean for Faculty Success at the Thomas F. Frist College of Medicine at Belmont University, where his work focuses on developing, supporting, and sustaining faculty, recognizing that thriving educators are essential to thriving learners. Alongside this role, he brings all of his experience into his work as a certified executive coach, helping residents and fellows navigate wellness, identity, performance, and the realities of modern medical training. He's also a devoted husband and father who understands the importance of balance and perspective outside of medicine. Dr. Park, that's a lot to say, but you have an incredible CV there under your belt. So welcome to the podcast. We are so glad to have you here.
Thank you very much. And it is such an honor to be here with you, talking about something that I love.
That's great. Well, let's go back a little ways and let's go back to the beginning of your journey and what drew you into medicine. And at what point did you know this was going to be your path?
What drew me into medicine was really, honestly, my mother, who was an RN back when she was in Korea, and being brought up in a traditional Asian household. It was typically, as a firstborn son particularly, doctor, lawyer, or an engineer. Typically, but for me, my choices were doctor, doctor, doctor. So from a very, very early age, it was pretty much ingrained into me. But what I really found fascinating were these medical textbooks that she had. And I would pull them out and look at these interesting or gross pictures of all these various medical illnesses, and I was just drawn to that. It was just very fascinating, and to be able to hear a lot of the stories my mother would tell me about the patients she took care of and what the doctors did and how wonderful the doctors were, how cool they were, and how admired and respected they were. It was not a very difficult sell for her.
I see. So were there any mentors early on that you looked to?
I really didn't have official mentors, but there were certainly people when I was younger that I had looked up to and who had an influence on me. I didn't have a very extensive networking, nor my family. It's when we immigrated here in the 70s. But one of my father's closest friends was a pediatrician, and he was my pediatrician. Now, my parents were business owners, and we were pretty much uninsured our whole lives. And so it was his friend who would take care of us episodically. And to me, he was a very, very important person and figure, and really went out of his way to look after us, his friends' kids. And so I owe a great deal of gratitude to him, and I have great admiration for him. That was one. And then when I was in high school, thinking or knowing that I was on this path to become a physician, I volunteered at the hospital And I remember when I was 17 years old, I was volunteering in the emergency department, basically just helping patients, bringing ice chips and blankets. And it was nothing fancy, but it was being in that environment and seeing the hustle and bustle and just a lot of excitement and just a lot of misery and pain from the patient side and a lot of compassion and great, impressive, cool work that I saw doctors and nurses do. And there was this one experience where it was such a meaningless thing, but I was walking in this busy ER hall, and there was a elderly patient who was on the gurney, and she just had a gown on. And I asked her, "Would you like me to bring you a blanket, ma'am?" And she says, "That would be lovely." So I got a blanket from the warmer and placed it on her. I said, "Here you go." And then she grabbed my hand and said, "Thank you so much." I made an impact just by doing that type of a very, very minor care, just bringing her a warm blanket. And just the way that she thanked me, I can tell it touched her, and that touched me. So at that point, I thought, this really is a great career for me. That's how I was really drawn into medicine and just continued on that path.
Yeah, it's the little things, the little touches that make a huge difference in someone's life. You never know. So that sounds very DO centric there to hand her a warm blanket. So tell me about that. What made you decide to go through the osteopathic route?
What an excellent question. And I had obviously, like most, going into medicine, knew about osteopathic medicine. But in my following year, during summer break, while I was volunteering, I also had a job and I was working at a local chiropractor's office. I was doing back end work, office work, the books, and he was a really, really kind person. And he kind of took me under his wing and he was telling me, the future of healthcare is going to be pain, especially back pain. People are getting older, they're getting fatter, they're getting lazier.
Sure.
People don't have to, go and turn their TVs anymore. Now they got remote control. They don't have to roll the windows down anymore. So anyway, he made a really great case about people who's going to be inactive and they're just going to have a lot of back pain. And he was very, very busy. And these were the days where there really wasn't too much of a limit for insurances paying chiropractic visits. And it seemed to be a very lucrative business as well. But it was a person who was really kind to me, looked after me, gave me advice, and he was my employer for that time. And it really made an impact on me. So when I went to university, I went to SUNY Stony Brook, great pre-med program there. And as a pre-med, I had to meet with our pre-med advisor. So this pre-med advisor, when he met with me, he asked me straight out, "Why do you want to be a doctor?" And I was just honest. I said, "Because my mother wants me to be a doctor." And he said, "Well, your mother's not going to medical school. You are. What do you want to do?" I said, "Well," I told him the story about my experience with the chiropractor. And I said, "I think I want to be a chiropractor." And then he said, "Well, have you heard of osteopathic medicine?" And I said, "No, what's that?" He goes, "Well, why don't you go take out a book in the library, read up on osteopathic medicine, and you and I will talk, we'll meet back in a couple of weeks and we'll touch base and we'll talk again." I said, "Okay." I thanked them and I read the book and I'm like, "Wow, this is fascinating." So I came back and he basically said, "Yep, you can have best of both worlds. You can do the chiropractic skills and have the medical skills, and you can do anything you want." I said, "That sounds like a wonderful plan." And so that put me on a path to osteopathic medicine.
Nice. So tell me a little bit, if you will, about medical school. How was that experience for you, and what were the highlights? And do you remember any struggles you had during medical school?
I went to the New York College of Osteopathic Medicine, now called NYIT-COM, and it was such a privilege for me to go to medical school that I just loved it. I loved being a medical student. I had a lot of pride and, believe it or not, fun just studying, just acting like a top-notch medical student was something that I was doing, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. One of the struggles that I had was focusing, I think, too much on my studies and my grades and not having an open mind about expanding my circle of interest and curiosity and not engaging in the school activities and the social events that the student body put together. I was just books, 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 grades, grades, study for the examination. A lot of that was wasting time. And so looking back, I wish I would have participated in these activities that the school sponsored. And of course, as a medical school dean, I realized that these activities were intentionally planned for the students' growth and well-being. And I also experienced as a dean, the students who truly thrived were not just the ones getting the high honors doing really well just academically. It was the ones who were doing well in school, but also engaged in the student government activities and the various interest groups and clubs and community affairs and health fairs. Those are students that were just happy and just thriving, and they all do well getting to residencies of their choice. And so looking back, I wish I would have done a lot more of that.
Well, that kind of leads me to my next question is if you could face yourself as a first year medical student today, what would you tell yourself?
It's not all about exam grades. There's so much more to being a physician than just good grades. But going through that whole pre-med process, and I see applicants now, applications all the time, where students are just used to getting 4.0 straight A's throughout their entire schooling and academic career. And so they're just so ingrained in getting that A. But that's really not that important in the big scheme of things. As long as you learn the material and you engage in all the activities that the medical school offers, you just trust the program. You chose that medical school for a reason because it was a good program. Now trust the programming and just to become engaged and just develop and learn in the various aspects as you develop your professional identity as a competent physician.
We'd like to take a moment to highlight the impact of one of our strategic partners, MD Coaches. If you're looking for a practical way to enhance your life and career in medicine, physician coaching is something to consider. Whether you're facing a professional challenge, stepping into your medical journey and seeking guidance, or navigating the complexities of leadership as an established clinician, coaching can help you gain clarity, confidence, and direction. Sometimes the most meaningful breakthroughs come from having a trusted physician coach walk alongside you. MD Coaches provides tailored one-on-one and group coaching for physicians by physicians. You don't have to go it alone. Visit mymdcoaches.com to take your next step toward unlocking or even simply exploring your full potential. So, third year, fourth year of medical school, did you know then what you wanted to do?
Boy, I wanted to do so much. Remember, I wanted to be a chiropractor. When I started my clinical rotations, internal medicine, oh, I was pretty good at that. I like that. Surgery, oh, this is fun. I'm good at suturing. I think I want to be a surgeon. My father had cardiac conditions, and I read a lot about cardiology and became very good at it. So I thought, maybe I'll be a cardiologist. So I enjoyed so many different specialties, and my specialty choices has changed about 3 or 4 times by the time I was in my early fourth year. And so when it came to decision time, instead of choosing one specialty, I decided to choose them all. So I did family medicine, which encompasses just such a broad range of both medical skills, surgical skills, as well as the patient breadth and scope. And so I chose that. I really never regretted it. I had the ability to take care of anybody in the family. And it's such a versatile specialty and so flexible in what you can do in your career that I ended up working in the emergency department for about 13 years of my life on weekends as I was doing academics as well, because it afforded me the opportunity to really do anything. So work in the clinic, in the hospital stuff, nursing home director, as well as working in the emergency department. So that flexibility was really, really awesome in my career.
Yeah. And then transition to resident from student. How was that? And tell me a little bit about your residency.
I did my residency training in Queens, New York, Jamaica Hospital Medical Center, which is the big level 1 trauma center next to the JFK International Airport. And it was a very, very busy hospital. And it was my top choice hospital. There were 3 residencies that I applied to, all in New York. So I spent all of my life in New York up until that point and never thought about leaving. And so 3 residency programs that I applied to, and all 3 of them were duly accredited, meaning they're both AOA and ACGME at the time, because I wanted to train with MD colleagues and have the ability to take the MD boards at the time. And so I did that training, and it was an affiliate of the Mount Sinai School of Medicine at the time. And when I got into residency, I wanted to prove to others, to myself, that I was just as good as these MD residents in the program, and just really do my best and shine. And so I worked really, really hard. But all throughout medical school and residency, I just enjoyed medicine. I just enjoyed the role of being in the clinical space. So I spent extra hours, whether it's before call or after call. I just spent extra hours because I just enjoy doing it. So that was noticed, and because I kept on intentionally practicing and looking to develop and become a better physician, I developed skills and I became really good at what I was doing. So that was a really good experience for me during residency.
Very busy place, I'm sure. Lots of work to be done.
There's always work to be done, and it was busy all the time. But I think I'm kind of an adrenaline junkie, perhaps. That just drove me. And I think that kind of went up until, even to this day, it's just kind of that drive.
So you've held a lot of leadership positions, such as with ACOFP, Rocky Vista University, Valley Hospital. What led you toward leadership?
What led me toward leadership, I think, was my upbringing. It was being the firstborn child to immigrant family living in America, where I had to take lead in helping understand and negotiate the lease and phone companies and cable companies,
Yeah.
and also kind of looking after my younger brother and sister, teaching them the ropes. So a lot of that stuff was very, very formative. And then I think a really big impact was my experience in the Boy Scouts, being a patrol leader and then a senior patrol leader. So it was very structured and disciplined. And I really enjoyed doing that, planning and implementing and executing, even if it's a simple camping trip, just being able to, to delegate responsibilities of who's pitching the tent, who's getting the water, who's starting the fire, all that stuff. I just really enjoyed doing that, and we all had fun doing it. So that was kind of a natural progression, I think, into future leadership roles.
Yeah. So looking back on your time with ACOFP, what would you consider some of your most meaningful accomplishments there?
Boy, that year as the president went by very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Granted, I served on the board for over a decade, but in that one year when I was the president of ACOP, the most meaningful was the engagement that I had with the members. I've traveled all over the country to different states, visiting the state societies, visiting various medical schools where they had student chapters of ACOP, and just engaging with these people was just inspiring, as well as fun, and also very, very rewarding. We have an amazing group of people in this organization. As a matter of fact, all in healthcare. They're just amazing, good-hearted people. They've accomplished a lot. They're intelligent. There's just so many great qualities, and to just engage and have conversations with them and share hope and share visions of the future, it was a lot of fun. So that was the most meaningful thing. And in this, I would always give leadership tips to medical students and the younger physicians. So leadership development is something I was always passionate about. And so I think those two big things, leadership development, kind of wrapped into my engagement with all of our members.
Looking for your first job after training? With PracticeLink, your job search starts and stays on your terms. You control when employers see your contact information. No spam, no cold calls, just relevant jobs from verified recruiters. Join thousands of physicians using PracticeLink to take the next step with confidence. Sign up free at practicelink.com.
So let's talk about Valley Hospital a little bit, where you were deeply involved in GME and graduate medical education. What were the biggest challenges, or what did you learn about supporting residents back then?
As the program director of that family medicine residency program at Valley Hospital, I learned a lot. Even before, when I was a core faculty in New York at the residency program where I graduated from, I've learned some, but when you're in the program director's position, you learn a lot more, in the sense that you learn a lot more about each resident.
Uh-huh.
A lot of them have personal challenges, health challenges, perhaps some mental health challenges, and you have to care for them as almost if they're your children.
Yep.
It is your job to successfully get them through this residency program and pass all the competencies and the examinations, and you end up really caring for them. So the challenge was to individualize treatment plan or an education plan for each resident, because you can't treat everyone the same. You can't just standardize everything. There's always going to be a few that's going to need really extra detailed attention, as well as some customized curriculum for them. So that was a learning experience for me, and that was challenging. But then the other challenge was that there's going to be some difficult decisions you're going to have to make. And there's also difficult situations that come up, like tragedies. I had a resident who died during residency, and that was very, very painful for me, for the residency, for all the other residents. So those were the most challenging. For our residents, I think the most challenging thing for them was just going from rotation to rotation, mindset shifting from one specialty to another, and then driving to the continuity clinic. So a lot of it was mindset and time. Time management is such a critical, important piece in residency training.
Yeah, absolutely. So not many physicians pursue executive coaching. So what inspired you to take that path?
Well, I had realized late in my career that a lot of executives get coaching.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't really fully understand what coaching was. There were a couple of healthcare executives who, in their transition out of healthcare, became executive coaches themselves and decided to go in all the way and start their careers in executive coaching. One was a hospital CEO, one was a hospital chief nursing officer, people that I admired, and I found that fascinating, and I was very curious about this. During this time also, I decided, well, let me get an executive coach. So I found an executive coach and I worked with her for over 6 months. And I found these conversations to be very positive and very effective. And I also thought, this is great. I think I can do this. Perhaps I should do this. And so I took a course to become an executive coach, and I enjoyed this coursework and I enjoyed engaging with the participants in this course. And so I kept that up, and I figured, well, either this could be a full-time career, it could be a side gig, but even the skills that I've learned in active listening, in inquisition, and just engaging with the client and helping them unleash answers, a lot of it was leadership development, which, yeah, I'm passionate about. So even those skills alone, if no other monies were to be made in a career in executive coaching, even those skills alone, I think would be helpful in whatever future leadership role that I may have. So I actively do that, not necessarily to make money, but I find it to be helpful to the people that I engage with when they need it.
Yeah. So, for listeners who might not be familiar, what does executive coaching look like for medical trainees?
So I had the privilege of working with the residency program, family medicine program in Billings, Montana, and I had the opportunity to coach several of their residents, including their two chief residents. They're called lead residents now. And it was more beneficial than I had even hoped that it would be. So what executive coaching is, which is different from mentoring, different from consulting, and different from teaching. So an executive coach would partner with the client and ask questions to draw out insights from the client. Now, the beauty of executive coaching is the keyword is executive. These are people, don't always have to be in the executive level, but people that are highly intelligent, highly accomplished, and so they have a lot of knowledge and experience already. And so asking the right questions at the right time to draw out the answers to the questions that they may have and to find solutions that they may be looking for is really magical. And so that's what it is. It's active listening, it's questioning, it's being an accountability partner, and it's all done in a one-on-one confidential space. So it's a free space for people to just kind of explore. Mentoring is kind of taking someone under your wing. I've already done it, so this is what I would have done, or this is what I've done. And it's introducing the mentee to various people, opening doors for them. So that's mentoring. Consulting is the client brings you a problem, you analyze it, and then you share with them, here are the best practices. Here are some solutions that you can employ and you can help them implement it. And of course, teaching is just, here's what you need to do. So coaching, I think the most effective type of coaching, as I realized with residents, is because they're still residents. They're not yet at the attending level and have leadership roles. I found that coaching with some consulting and a little bit of mentoring is really the best way. So I have coached these residents, and the feedback that I got was that it was most helpful to them when I was able to share with them my thoughts, my ideas, some of the stuff that I may have gone through. So kind of, overall, it's really just being there, listening, 100% active listening, and caring and supporting your client.
Yeah, that means the world to so many people. What kind of struggles or patterns do the residents bring to coaching most often?
Burnout is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is perhaps imposter syndrome, is like, why am I here? Do I belong here? Is this, very few would be thinking, is this what I really want to do in the future?
Mm-hmm.
And once they start thinking that way, then we have to start thinking about cues that these can be either early symptoms of burnout or even deeper underlying challenges.
Hmm.
So I would say it's imposter syndrome, of course, exhaustion, overwhelm, because it's just so much work that residents have to do in such a finite period of time.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned burnout, so let's talk about that for a little bit. What early signs do you encourage residents to recognize in themselves?
I think the earliest sign for residents in the healthcare setting is probably going to be cynicism.
Hmm.
Am I really making a difference here?
Hmm.
Why am I taking care of this patient who has all these problems and is not even going to listen to me or comply with instructions that I give?
Hmm.
Loss of empathy. If you remember back in the early days when I was a 17-year-old, giving that warm blanket, all these residents, they've had experiences like that throughout their career. And even as a medical student, they remember the the want and desire to serve others, to be compassionate, to help others, which is the number one thing pre-med students say on interview day. Why do you want to be a doctor? I want to help people.
Hmm.
So when you lose that empathy because you're so busy and you're being frustrated, that is probably going to be one of the greatest signs of burnout.
Yeah. Let's talk a little about wellness. What does true wellness, look like in your eyes for residents?
In the osteopathic philosophy, we believe in the holistic approach,
Hmm.
and we always talk about mind, body, and spirit. So in that fashion, it's something that I practice.
Hmm.
I think is very important is we need to be well and healthy and strong in all three of those aspects.
Hmm.
Mind, it's learning, it's reading, it's engaging in conversations and dialogue. Body, it's sleeping well, it's eating well, and it's exercise. So you make a point to exercise to keep your body strong. And then the third is spirituality.
Hmm.
This is something that I think where most people fall a little bit short.
Hmm.
That part of the trifecta or the three-legged stool, if you will, that part is just as important as the mind and the body. So if we can keep all three parts healthy and strong, I think that's overall going to help you with just overall wellness. And that spirituality is more than just meditation. It's really connecting with the spirit inside you and a greater spirit.
Yeah. Do you see misconceptions that residents have about self-care or seeking help?
Actually, yes. I think there's a lot of residents and just any high achieving people when they are facing challenges, difficulties, struggles, doubts, worries, fears, that they hold it to themselves because it is a sign of weakness to show that to others.
Hmm.
And if I'm able to tough it out, that means I'm a tough, strong individual. I think that's a mistake. I was like that myself. But what I have found in people who do that is that they isolate themselves more and more from the people around them
Hmm.
because they're holding those secrets and those fears and those feelings to themselves and don't want others to see.
Hmm.
So they surround themselves by themselves and it turns into isolation. And that leads to loneliness, potential depression or anxiety. And so I think the important thing for people to do is when they have these thoughts or feelings or doubts, just talk to somebody that you trust. That could be your program director, it could be other residents, it could be family members, peers, friends. But instead of holding it in, I
Hmm.
think it's much healthier to let it out and to share your vulnerabilities, and your humility will come out that way. And people around you, especially in the medical community, they are so willing to help you. They
Hmm.
are compassionate. And that's why they go into medicine to begin with. They can help patients and they can help you. They'll help your friends, people who they care about. So just opening up, reaching out, and just engaging with those around you and finding those people that you trust that you can have these open, honest conversations with. I think it's very, very healing.
Yeah. So, what about the residency programs themselves? What can they do to better support trainees in all of these areas?
I think having a structured wellness program, whether it's faculty led or resident led, I think that's important. And it's going to be intentionally encouraging residents to engage, to come to these wellness things and not poo poo them away. Another thing is to make available coaches. I think there's great value in certain residents getting coaching, not for remediation, not because they're in trouble, not because they're struggling academically or performance based, but just so they can grow in their professional identity. And a lot of the times, the coaching reminds them of why they went into the medicine. It brings back that powerful why
Sure.
and the mission, and it kind of grounds them in their own mission. It talks about their core values and then how those core values can come out during their engagement with patients and the residency program. So I think having a coaching program, mentoring programs, there's many ways to do this, but I think it's important that the residents have to engage with one another and to engage with the faculty and other support system around them in the program.
Yeah, and I think finding that safe space where you can talk about things and feel safe, and just sometimes it's just good to be able to talk and verbalize things and just let them out instead of coming home in the evening and holding all of that in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How can residents intentionally develop a healthy, authentic professional identity?
I mentioned this a little bit before, but it's really identifying what values are most important to you. What are your core values that make up who you are and that drives you? And then once you identify your core values and your driving factor, then you know what your mission would be. And especially if you're in healthcare, your mission, for the most part, is going to be providing care to other people. And so once you get in touch with your core values, I think that will really help you identify who you are as a professional, who you are as a physician, and who you are as a person as well.
Yeah. How about importance and community and finding your people during residency? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure, we talk about community, and community is broad. There is the people that live around you, and then there's the people that work with you, people in your residency program. And so being engaged in your community, I think, again, is important. Human beings are just social people. When you put them in isolation, they just don't do well. So that human engagement is important. And we should be intentional about participating in engagement activities. And even if it's just saying hello and having a chit chat with someone at the grocery store or at the coffee shop, all of these are personal engagements. And so that helps you really get connected to the community. Now, when it comes to finding your people, if you're in a residency program, I would argue that everyone there is your people. And because of that, you have every right, every privilege to talk to them, question them, just engage with them. So you were really lucky for those in the residency program. You have that right there. And I think the culture of that program is important. And then I would engage with the chief residents, the faculty mentors. And the more you engage again with the program, the healthier you're going to be and the more that you're going to thrive.
Yeah. How about what mindset or skills should residents develop now to set up long-term career satisfaction?
I think the most important skill for residents to develop is their mindset. It's thinking that they are on a very, very long learning journey and a development journey. that it is impossible for any physician to know it all, and it's not what is expected of them as residents. So as long as they are learning something new every day, that's a success. And that mindset of, I'm not perfect, but I am trying to become better and better so that I can care for the patients. So I think just having that mindset, that's probably the most critical thing for a physician, is not to just expect so much of yourself,
Mhm.
is to give yourself grace as a human being to make a little mistake here or there, and the opportunity to say, I don't know, and I'll look into it and to learn. So every time you do that, you grow a little bit and you develop little by little by little. And all those little tiny steps every day adds up into big milestones throughout the course of many years.
Yeah. So as we look at wrapping up here, I'm going to ask you a few quick questions. One habit or routine that you swear by?
One habit that I do is at the end of the day, I always take time to reflect. And oftentimes it's during my drive home. I think about what went well today. What can I do better in this interaction next time? And so I am constantly thinking about what happened in the day. Every day there are learning opportunities. And as I mentioned before, we just want to learn and grow each day. So self-reflection is an important habit.
I love it. Some of my family members, when they have dinner, before dinner, everyone tells what was their rose for the day and what was their thorn for the day. And I think that's a great way to do it, you know?
Exactly it.
Yeah, yeah. So, how about a lesson you repeat to residents over and over?
Now, I always have to remind residents and medical students, because their journey is hard. They're going through some hard times. But I have to remind them that they are living the dream, that they dreamt of doing this and now they're actually doing it. And to also realize what privilege they have, because there are literally billions of people in the world who would love to be in their shoes. So just appreciate what they have and just, just enjoy that moment.
Yep. Something you wish every trainee knew earlier.
Attendings and faculty don't expect you to know everything. They want you to try. So as long as you're really working to improve and you're conscientious about it, that is what matters. It's your effort, it's your sincerity, it is that integrity of trying to develop into this professional. That's the most important thing. Knowledge will come, but don't beat yourself up because you couldn't answer a question that an attending asked you, or you didn't do as well on an examination as you thought you would.
Yep. And then what gives you the most hope about the next generation of physicians?
They're going to change the way healthcare is being delivered with technology, innovation, AI, various other things. Just the way that we practice medicine is changing already, and they're going to be leaders in this next stage of evolution of healthcare delivery. But what I found out in this younger generation, that they are very honest about who they are. They have courage, and they also look for meaning. And that gives me hope that the next generation of physicians coming up are good people. And I think all physicians are just innately good people for the profession that they chose. And I think it's as long as we just hold on to that core of compassionate service to the patients that we have the privilege of taking care of, I think that message is the most important thing. And I see a lot of that in the younger generation, and I hope they just don't burn that out.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Park, I can't thank you enough for being on today. I would love to have you back for another episode anytime. I know your time is valuable, but we truly do appreciate you. Thank you for sharing your journey, your leadership experiences, your insights into coaching, wellness, supporting the next generation of physicians. We're grateful for your time and your work. For our listeners, if you haven't already, make sure you visit and register on the Practice Link platform. It's completely free and gives you access to job searches, career preparation tools, and the resources to support you during residency and as you plan your future. Thank you for joining us on Surviving and Thriving in Residency, and we will see you next time.